Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello guys, how are you all doing? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the first episode of the Snowflake conflicts. I might change the title, bear with me. Episode 1 on the 2nd of August 2024 at 7 PM UK time. It's a new month, guys. As if it was a new month yesterday, but how are you guys all doing? I hope you're all doing well. We are dual streaming here on YouTube and twitch.tv, and silly me, I forgot to put up the Twitch chat, so let me just quickly do that. So as I'm doing that, before I just come to you guys in the chat, those who are turning up here on YouTube, so the format of this, so this is why I might change the name, the title of it, because I thought a lot about how I was going to do this, and I think the better way for me to do this live stream is, rather than me cover articles, we'll do watching reaction. So basically it will be like it'll basically be like the Snowflake watch, but instead of covering British news, it'll cover world news. So what I think I might do is I might change the name of it to something a bit more global, as opposed to just reading articles, which we do have live streams. I have live streams for you guys anyway, but it depends on how much content I can find as well, because obviously it's not hard to get content on Gaza. It's much harder to get content on like Sudan or others. But we'll see. I've got plenty for you guys today anyway. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to add any more. We'll just see how the format goes. No funny videos or anything today for you guys, just for reference as well, because this is more of a how can I call this? This is more of an experimental live stream more than anything. Steam Banker, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Ajao is here as well. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Reg is here as well. Good to see you, Reg. Hope you're doing well. One Angry Pagan, the badges are in the chat. Good to see you, One Angry Pagan. Hope you're doing well as well. Yes. So the main two topics we're going to be covering is Gaza, Ukraine. I do have one clip from Sudan, I think. Yeah, just one clip from Sudan, but only one for that. This live stream will not be monetized in any way, shape, or form, because obviously, because a lot of clips that I will have copyright music. So we're gonna. I've only got one for Sudan here, guys, and I just want to share this with you. It's pretty powerful, and it is from the United Nations, and it basically states that the famine conditions have been confirmed in Zamzam camp in North Darfur, with other areas also at risk. The WFP is working to reach people in need, but humanitarian requires safe and unhindered access to prevent the crisis from spreading. Don't worry, it won't be nothing too horrible or anything like that, if that's what you guys are worried about. I have watched the clips, but I just want to obviously say that talking a little bit about Sudan before we'll play the clip. Obviously, I covered. I'm pretty sure if I didn't cover this on the World News Round, which will drop on Sunday, or I've covered it on the Snowflake corner earlier this week. The humanitarian aid is so desperate, so desperate in Sudan, and it's something again that's just not talked about. We don't talk about it enough. It is a major crisis in the area, guys, and this is basically an appeal, for donations, guys. So if you want to help them in any way, shape, or form, please do. But this is from them. Let me know what the volume is like as well. Did you turn off? You did turn off. How dare you? Sudan's war has triggered the world's largest hunger crisis, with more than half the population facing acute hunger. Alistair Keir, Mark Wilkie, and Daily Blase. I just said that already. Hi, guys. Hope you're all doing well. Just a reminder, guys, next week on Thursday, if you haven't seen it already, myself and Daily Blase. Yeah, I know. I turned it back on. Myself and Daily Blase will be together. It'll be very wonderful. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that very, very much. But back here, obviously, Sudan, guys. As I said, this is the only clip I've got yes, because if it goes red, guys, it means it's if it goes red, it means it's not on. But yeah, things are really, really bad in Sudan right now.
Our biggest challenge is the continuation.
Look at that. Look at that. It's absolutely insane. Like what was a vibing community is now just nothing, rubble, nothing.
Of the conflict, which is hampering our movement as well as our humanitarian supplies. So we call on the parties for an immediate cessation of hostilities that would allow humanitarians to access these communities, some of whom are trapped, and it's very challenging to reach them at this time of the year when the roads are impassable.
And things have even got even worse, actually, because there was a recent story. I don't know if I've definitely covered it at one point or not. That the RSF general there was an attempted assassination on him. Now I don't know if this was by the army or not, but after it happened, he basically said that he would not in any way, shape or form have any kind of negotiations now. And it scuppered any kind of talks whatsoever, because there was going to be more sit-down talks between the two sides. But since that alleged assassination attempt, it's like, he's not going to talk now, which means that things are just going to continue like this. And it's really important to understand, guys, that areas where the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, that's who the Sudanese army is fighting, they are not allowing these the aid workers to get to where they need to get to. They're not allowing them to get where they need to be. Which is a major issue, and obviously it means that people are literally starving of famine because they're not able to get what they need. Good evening, Chris Fisher. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, and that's from the World Food Program. So I'll try and build up. I try and scour every day to find some more clips, guys, of Sudan, because I do want to get a bit more. Obviously, I don't want anything too horrible. I think that's the right word. We don't want anything too horrible. But I do want to share basically some footage of what's going on there. So what I might also do is look at some news reports for you guys there. But that's but obviously there'll be a World's News round dropping on Sunday for you guys. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to do so as well. Right, so one of the biggest before we get to Ukraine, guys, one of the biggest topics, and without a doubt the swear jar will definitely be filled in this one. I have to start with one of the most angriest ones of all. So this first clip, guys, Israeli lawmakers are debating if it's okay to sodomise and rape Palestinian prisoners. And he says, yes, really. Please, can all those who make so much noise about fake rape claims in Gaza come forward? Just watch the text very carefully of what's said here. Not so much the sound, because obviously we don't understand what they're saying. But I just... So just before I play, actually, for those who don't know, there was not too long ago, there was allegations that Israeli soldiers or Israeli people have been allegedly rape against. There were allegations of rape against Palestinian prisoners, against Palestinian prisoners, and some of the soldiers were arrested. Some Israeli soldiers, apparently, or people potentially for them, were arrested. Actually, I don't know if it's soldiers, but yeah, there's definitely caused some definitely some unnecessary tension here. That is for sure. But regardless of whether the allegations are true or not, the comments that are made by the person you're about to hear just is absolutely mind-boggling. Like, I've talked to you guys before about how much some people in Israel have how they don't even think of Palestinians as second-class citizens. They think of them as such a vermin. It is diabolical, guys.
אני לא יודע אם יודעים, אבל יש אירוע כרגע בשדה תימן שמשטרה צבאית הגיעו לעצור חיילים ששמרו על מחבלי נוח'בה. והחיילים בשדה תימן, מתקן מעצר של מחבלי נוח'בה, ומשטרה צבאית שם הגיעה לעצור כמה לוחמים שם שכנראה בגלל איזה שהם טענות של יחס למחבלי נוח'בה.
So the Nakba terrorists are obviously basically what they're claiming to be the Hamas, obviously people from claiming to be from Hamas is what they're claiming here. And basically the soldiers who were alleged were arrested here. And it's caused up a stir within Israel, this incident.
יש שם אירוע של התבצרות וכולי. הטרלול שהמדינה שלנו נכנסת אליו סביב הסיפור הזה הוא מטורף וצריך להפסיק אותו. ואני חושב שצריך פה לתת דוגמה אישית, ואני אומר עכשיו, ואני קורא לחברי הקואליציה לעשות כמוני, אני קם ואני יוצא מפה, ואני לא הולך להצביע יותר על שום דבר, עד שהסיפור הזה והטרלול הזה, שיש מי שבפרקליטות חושב שאפשר לבוא ולעצור חיילים על דברים שעושים למחבלי נוח'בה, לא נגמר. אוקיי? ואני מאוד מבקש, ואני חושב שחבריי בקואליציה טוב יעשו, אם יעשו כמוני. אנחנו לא יכולים להמשיך כרגיל.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו.
אוקיי.
הכל.
מצוין.
הכל.
זה מה שרציתי.
הכל, האנשים האלה, אתה יודע מה עשו?
So I'm going to turn the volume down and I want you to just read the text, what he just said there. He thinks it's okay to rape them. Okay, that's what he said.
הסיפור הזה והטרלול הזה, שיש מי שבפרקליטות חושב שאפשר לבוא ולעצור חיילים על דברים שעושים למחבלי נוח'בה, לא נגמר. אוקיי? ואני מאוד מבקש, ואני חושב שחבריי בקואליציה טוב יעשו, אם יעשו כמוני. אנחנו לא יכולים להמשיך כרגיל.
להכניס מקל לרקטום.
This is the thing, yeah. And then the chairman obviously asking, it's not legit? It's supposed to, like, is that supposed to be legitimate? And obviously, if you listen to it, you see the text response.
של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו.
אוקיי.
הכל.
Oh, sugar. I've lost the piece. The text where he says, sugar, I lost the spot. He says, shut up, yes. If he is a Nakba, everything is legitimate to do. So he's basically saying he is perfectly legitimate to rape people. That's essentially what he is saying there. He's essentially saying that it is perfectly legitimate to rape people. And he ends, the chairman ends there with there are things that you don't do. I don't know how much common sense that people in some people in that room have. But the very fact that there is someone in there who is trying to claim, whether the allegations are true or not, and they are allegations, we do have to stress that, whether or not they're true or not, there is, I don't care who that person is, there is no justifying it whatsoever. No justifying it whatsoever. And it makes me sick to my stomach that this person actually thinks there's some kind of, like, because of who they are. Like I've said this so many times. There are so many clips, and I've shown them with you guys. There are so many clips of where these kinds of people, I'm not going to say what they are. There are so many kinds of these clips where they show just how horrible they go, of how far they will go, guys. It's just absolutely. It's just absolutely insane. Chris, I have to say allegations because I don't know the answer, Chris. That's why I have to say allegations. Yeah, I have to say allegations, Chris. I have to, okay? But we have covered extensively on here on this channel just like how far and how vile that some of these, the comments that we hear, the stories that we hear time and time again on Israel. But what infuriates me is that he says it so openly how okay he thinks it is. It is just absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting, man. Chris, listen, listen. We don't know we don't know the truth, man. I'm not towing their line because I'm not following. I don't have the evidence. I'm not following. I don't have the evidence, so I can't say that. That's why I'm saying that, Chris. It's perfectly all right it's perfectly all right, but I have to say that because we have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, those soldiers have been arrested. I haven't seen an update on it since. This is from a couple of days ago, and I'm sure that the likes of Al Jazeera and Middle East and I will keep on top of it for us. But yeah, it's just absolutely shocking to even justify rape in any way, shape, or form. It's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, you guys. Before I go to the journalist, I just want to share this with you guys. There's no sound on this anyway. So Israel has dropped almost 75,000 bombs and shells on Gaza in 200 days, 20 times more than the US aimed at Iraq in 6 years of war. It's not war, it's genocide. More of the devastation and destruction, guys. As we see there, it's just a graveyard. Gaza is turned into a graveyard, and once again, the world is just not doing enough. Israel are just being allowed to get away with this, and it needs to stop. I mean, how can people live like this? They just can't. It's just incredibly sad. I just don't understand it. It's just absolutely horrible, guys. It really, really is. There. So this is going to be one of the hardest clips, guys. So a few days ago, absolutely heartbreaking to watch Jinder Gaza reporting on the killing of her colleague Ismail Al-Ghul and Rami Al-Rasis in an Israeli strike, in solidarity with her and their families and everybody at Al Jazeera. So Al Jazeera sadly lost another journalist in this conflict, and my God, she had such a hard time reporting this, obviously, and you can feel it in her emotion talking about this, you guys.
Well, Ismail was covering the war since day one, and he has been covering everything in the north parts of the Gaza Strip, especially after the Gaza Strip has been split into two, the north and the south. He was separated from his family. He used to always post about his daughter and how he has been separated from her, and he chose to stay in the north to report for Al Jazeera, and he was counting the days where he's going to reunite with his family. He was killed with his cameraman, Rami Rifi, and they were directly targeted in a white car.
Now, I'm not going to show the footage of the white car, but I will say, obviously, we know that Israel are targeting. We know that Israel are targeting Al Jazeera journalists. We know that they do not. We know they shut down their headquarters in Israel as well. Al Jazeera's headquarters in Israel. They denounce Al Jazeera's coverage in every way, shape, or form, and it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening that they would do such a thing. They are reporting this. They are literally just doing their jobs, and they deliberately targeted this journalist, because they targeted the journalist and the cameraman also lost their the journalist and the cameraman both lost their lives, and doing this because they feel because of what their duty as journalists to report on what's going on inside Gaza. And Israel are trying to silence this.
Where they were killed, they were wearing their press jackets, they were covering the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, they were on their way back from his house in Al-Shati refugee camp, and that's how the Israeli forces targeted them. We're talking about 4 journalists from Al Jazeera now. Shireen, Ismail, Hamza, and also Samir. 4 journalists from Al Jazeera have been killed so far. But not only that, according to the Palestinian Ministry, they just announced that 165 Palestinian journalists have been killed since October 7, and those journalists were all working on the ground when they were targeted.
125 journalists now have died. More journalists have died in here than I'm pretty sure it's been reported already, but I'm pretty sure that more journalists have died inside Gaza than anywhere in any other conflict. I'm pretty sure that's the case. How has this been we talk about the devastation loss, guys, the loss of life, which is absolutely atrocious, but journalists being targeted, why? Because because of their reporting, because they're reporting what's going on. I mean, it's for her, you know, after just literally losing her colleague, to be able to comment on this, it's very hard for her. It really, really is. And for everyone in Al Jazeera, because this is another one of their journalists that they have lost, another cameraman that they have lost, who are just simply reporting on this. And this is really heartbreaking for them.
There's viral photos right now on how Ismail and Rami were targeted. It shows that they were wearing their press jackets every single day. Al Jazeera Arabic used to broadcast Ismail's reports, talking about different types of reports. So we're talking about airstrikes, the sewage, the famine, everything. And I had this call with Ismail a couple of days ago, and we were talking about helping Palestinians sick in the northern parts and trying to find a way to evacuate to the southern parts of the Gaza Strip. Ismail was not only a journalist, but he was trying his best to help everyone in the north, to help to find food for everyone in the north, and he was just a very kind person. And despite the fact that we did not see each other for 10 months after being separated from the southern parts and the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, we're still in contact, talking to each other about everything and helping each other to air and to report about the Gaza Strip and this ongoing genocide.
And Hind, it is precisely because of the information that has got out to the world from the likes of Ismail, his cameraman Rami, and indeed yourself, that the world has a clearer understanding of some of the atrocities that are happening there in Gaza on a daily basis. I can hear it in your voice, Hind. This is an incredibly emotional moment for you and the team, and obviously for the whole Al Jazeera family. Can you give us a sense of the kind of precautions, the safety concerns, the measures that you have to go through on a daily basis, and Ismail would have had to go through to do his job?
The sad answer here is that they are doing everything that they are supposed to do to be as safe as they possibly can. But the problem is they're still being targeted and they're still being killed. And that's the problem. And the thing is that they're being Israel. They have been called out on this, but again, it just falls on deaf ears. Just like the ICJ report falls on deaf ears. So you know, everything that's being thrown at, and there's going to be a great speech we're going to hear in a moment. Everything in a moment, guys. But everything that Israel are doing, everything that they've been told that they're doing, everything that they are responsible for, it's all falling on deaf ears because no one is doing anything. No one is forcing Israel's hand to do anything. They are continuously being allowed to do what they do with no consequences whatsoever.
We do everything. We wear our press jackets, we wear our helmets. We try to not go to anywhere where it's not safe. We try to go to anywhere where to keep our security, but we have been targeted in normal places where normal citizens are. We're trying to do everything, but at the same time, we want to report. We want to tell the world what's going on. It's heartbreaking to report this today, and it's heartbreaking to report Shireen's killing, Hamza's killing, and Samir's killing. And this is not the first time we're doing this, but every time it feels as if it's the first time. It's a great loss for us here, journalists in Gaza, and especially Al Jazeera's team, losing such a colleague
Hind, listen, we really, really appreciate your reporting and for sharing your memories of Ismail and Rami. Thank you very much for now.
That's absolutely brutal for her and for those who know him and work with him, and you can see it on her face. And you know, I really do admire her and the team at Al Jazeera who are literally on that ground, and all the journalists who are in there in what is a very hostile in a hostile situation. It's difficult for her and it's difficult for everyone in there. One last footage I want to show, and this one is going to be a bit brutal. I just want you to read the text of what he says here, guys.
والله التغطية مستمرة. والله التغطية لن تقف. والله التغطية مستمرة. باستهدافهم الصحفيين ليشاهد العالم مدى ظلم وبطش وهنجعية هذا الاحتلال. باستهدافها الصحفيين من ينقل الصورة ومن ينقل الرسالة. يريدون أن يكمموا أفواهنا لكي لا يشاهد العالم جرم هذا الاحتلال. ولكن والله لا تصل الرسالة ولا تصل الصورة، ومستمرين حتى آخر صحفي في شمال قطاع غزة وفي غزة كلها. والله لا تصل الرسالة ولا تصل الصورة، ويستشهد إسماعيل ويستشهد رامي وغير رامي حتى آخر شخص في غزة من الإعلاميين مستمرين في نقل الرسالة. الله يحميك والله يحميك. الله ينصرك.
Absolutely brutal for him. Yeah, absolutely shame. All I can say is I'm really sorry for the loss. It is just absolutely horrific. This one was, I don't know if this was yesterday, guys, I'm not 100% sure, but this is a really powerful statement. Here, we demand accountability for Israel's assassination of Ismail Hawass, as we have continually demanded accountability for the warden murder and injury of over 130,000 Palestinian children, men and women, across these past 300 days of horror and hell that call for. Excuse me. It's a very powerful statement and definitely worth listening to, guys.
The Palestinian leadership condemns in the strongest terms the assassination of former Palestinian Prime Minister and head of the political bureau of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, in Tehran today. We demand accountability for this assassination, as we have continually demanded accountability for the wanton murder and injury of over 130,000 Palestinian children, women, and men across these past 300 days of horror and hell in Gaza, and call for accountability for all of Israel's criminal policies and practices in our territory across the decades. Mr. President, violence and terror are clearly Israel's main and only currency. Not international law, not diplomacy, not mediation, not respect for human life. There is no red line for Israel, no law it will not breach, no norm it will not trample, no act too depraved or barbaric for its occupying army and settler militias, and no child, woman, or man off limits, even babies considered legitimate targets. The Israeli Prime Minister and his coalition of government extremists and military commanders believe there will never be a cost for their crimes. They believe they can literally get away with murder, get away with genocide against the Palestinian people. They believe it because it has been possible until now. No resolution, no ICJ order, no ceasefire calls have been respected. No demand for protection of civilians and humanitarian access has been heeded, and still no consequences whatsoever for Israel. Israel is proving every single day that it will continue to act as a rogue state. The assassination today and all the crimes preceding it and that have followed it in the ensuing hours prove this beyond the shadow of a doubt. Israel openly declares its intentions to carry on, defying the Council and the international community, as a whole, brazenly carrying on with its scorched earth killing and destruction spree in Gaza, vowing to further entrench its colonial annexationist occupation and its racist, discriminatory, hateful policies against the Palestinian people and recklessly escalating tensions. There is no right that Israel can claim to justify these war crimes and crimes against humanity. The right to peace and security is the right of all states in the region and in every region of the world. It is not an exclusive right of Israel. Mr. President, Israel has been the oppressor, tormentor, and murderer of Palestinians for decades, and it is the long-standing destabilizer of our region. It must be stopped. The international community has a choice to make. Let it be for peace and security. Do not let Israel drag us all to the abyss.
I mean, I couldn't be more in agreement with her statement more than ever. I will just point out that there was some cuts into that tweet as well, as you may have noticed. But I think we didn't need to hear. I'm pretty sure I saw a clip of a full picture of it, but the main points were put in there. This has got to stop. This has got to stop, guys. Netanyahu needs to be in prison. Absolutely, Netanyahu needs to pay for his crimes. Absolutely, he needs to pay for his crimes. Since obviously this has been going on before October the 7th. Let's be very, very clear about this. But since October the 7th, everything has ramped up. Everything has ramped up since October the 7th. Everything has ramped up since then. And the world just continues to back Israel when not the world continues to back it as well. Western leaders, majority of them, continue to back Israel when they know that they are damaging their own reputation because of what the public are seeing. So it's frustrating to say the least, guys. I'm not going to play that one out. Maybe I should.
This morning in this building,
if there's one politician within the European Union I absolutely adore, it's this person here, Claire Daly. This is an old one though, but it still resonates. It still resonates to this day, guys. She says, it's all the way back in December, this one. For 10 minutes this morning, she eulogised the war in Ukraine, but for all the crocodile tears, she couldn't mention the victims of genocide in Gaza. She's unelected and has no power to make foreign policy. It's past time for member states to put her in a place. # ceasefire now. This was on the 13th of December, by the way.
this morning in this building, the unelected bureaucrat who poses herself as the voice of Europe stood and spoke for 10 minutes. She eulogized the war in Ukraine, a war that she has continued to champion, and while she shed crocodile tears for the victims of that war, she never once mentioned, not once mentioned, the victims of the genocide that is underway now in Gaza and for the last 10 weeks. Well, shame on her and shame on the countries of the European Union who have followed her.
Absolutely. Yeah, the EU have been horrendous. I'm sorry if I turned the volume down. It was only because I wasn't sure if it was too loud or not, but you can still read the text anyway. But Ursula von der Leyen was just as poor when from October the 7th, as well as the UK and the US have been on this. The EU were very poor in the start of this response as well. And especially when the EU are considered the high standards, it's extremely embarrassing. It really, really is. Lack of regulation when the government can't govern. Lobby your supermarket, says Billy Kershaw. We live in a capitalist system. Vote with your pound. Yeah.
We know that Gaza and Palestine have been described as a graveyard for children. A war against children. Hell on earth. Hell on earth. And how will the European Union respond tomorrow freeze and refuse to call a ceasefire. Our presence here is here to say, if they do that, the people of Europe and history will never let them forget it, because history is at a turning point and the world will never be the same again. What we are seeing is the beginning of the dismantlement of the Zionist apartheid state of Israel. Their anger, their violence is the violence of a regime that is on its way out. Palestine will prevail. International law will prevail. Keep on the streets, keep active, and make those in power eventually listen.
And it's been really, and that was December, guys. That was December 2023. This was, and we are now in the 2nd of August, and this is still going on, and people are still protesting, people are still marching, people are still making their voices heard, and what's happening, and here's the thing, like, and Billy made a point about we live in a capitalist system. Companies and businesses that have links to Israel, they know they're being hurt by this. They know that they're being hurt by this. They know it's hurting them. Any business that has links to Israel, they have all suffered. They have suffered loss. They have suffered funding and loss as a result of their links to Israel. So, if a capitalist system cares all about its bottom dollar, shall we say, at the end of the day, why are there not more businesses lobbying leaders to do more? Because surely they want business to thrive. I think that's a question that's worth asking as well. Because a lot of businesses have really suffered as a result of this as well. Any businesses, anyone that has any links to Israel, they have suffered immensely because of this. So why are they not doing more themselves to stop this? Instead of sitting on the sidelines allowing this to happen, it's hurting their business. If money is what makes the world go round, why would you want less money in your pocket as a result of this conflict? You may notice there may be some people out there, there may be some businesses out there who don't care about what's going on in the Middle East, but one thing they do care about is their bottom dollar. And if their bottom dollar is hurting, why have they not done more to lobby governments to pressure them more? I think that's a question that I think is worth asking as well. Where's the... So, despite all the bad things, there are still good things happening. This is a lovely thing. I'm not going to play the sound, but this is pretty cool. For all the negative that we hear about what's happening in Gaza. There's a trend on TikTok of Palestinians in Gaza returning and repairing their destroyed homes to demonstrate their resilience despite the war. The captain says, "We will not go." This is absolutely cool. So, just watch what he does here. Cleans up the home. Cleans it all up. Tidying up. Showing that despite everything that's happening, still going to fix everything up. Not going to allow what's happening in the world, what's happening around him, to stop doing what he does. So despite, again, the humanness of people showing their defiance that they're not going to just simply stop living lives. Fair play to this man and fair play to any Palestinians who do this kind of work. It's absolutely amazing to see. This here, look, I love this. And it just turns it into, and just turning it around like that. Despite everything outside the world happening, against all the odds. Really good, really a little nice touch we needed, especially with everything that's happening, you guys. But yeah, obviously, as always, will guys continue to cover it. I will obviously have more content for you guys on Rumble next week when up as well. And I think I have at least one story maybe on World's News Round on Sunday. I think one story at least. for you guys. So before we go to Ukraine, just see what some of you guys are saying in the comments section. Jal says Portugal voted for the entirety of Palestine as a member of the UN. Our position is a ceasefire to be immediate, and we doubled our aid to the UNRWA. What they could do, they did. No, Sakir, thanks for popping by. Much appreciate it. Internationally, shopping, reporting, any equal levels, says Jeannie Bottle. Good to see you, Jeannie. Hope you're doing well. No worries, Stephen Banker. What's that? Great speech you did at the UNSC. Yeah. The Israeli guy unplugged his earpiece. Yeah, I saw that as well. It's just like, you know. Yeah, I know. The piece on the report is over. Stephen Baker is still in. Yeah, it's fine if you can't watch it. I can understand. Portuguese reporters were advised not to enter the kill zone, specifically without a doubt. Israel is targeting reporters. They are. They don't want people talking in certain areas. They don't want people talking at all, really. Jeannie Bottle says, "Can we not send all the trash Talk TV and GB News teams to Gaza, report from there, just asking questions?" The problem is that they wouldn't give accurate information if we sent them anyway, Jeannie. They wouldn't send accurate reporting, and they wouldn't be targeted by Israel as such. So they wouldn't be targeted by Israel because they would be they're more likely to propaganda Israel within Gaza on their behalf than anything. Israeli government is trying to make this a bigger conflict to save their leader, says Aztakir. I don't think it's the government. I think it's Netanyahu who's trying to do it, because there is definitely conflict within that government. There's a lot of conflict. Remember, it's a coalition as well. I think that's a really important point. Most schools and universities and health centers and hospitals, says Stephen Banker. It's the biggest atrocities of all time, and we aided it. We have. We're complicit in this. We are complicit in this. America's complicit, and anyone else who has abetted and supported and funded Israel are embedded in this in any way, shape, or form. That is the absolute reality. Alistair Keir, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. He's gifted 5 memberships to David Duro, Paul Hammond, Jim Stevenson, Duke Barge, and Mark Tefler. Thank you so much for those 5 gifted memberships. That's really appreciated. Thank you, my friend. Just posting ideas. I tried to improve society, says Jeannie Bowl, and rightly so. And we appreciate it, Jeannie. We appreciate it. We appreciate we appreciate it. But yeah, I think it might have the opposite effect rather than the effect that you want it to have, if I'm absolutely honest. So guys, before we just go to the last bits, I'm going to talk about Ukraine. Guys, just if you haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate shares across social media so others are notified of this live stream. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And thank you to everyone and anyone who has done so in any way, shape, or form. It is greatly appreciated. So the last clips I have for you guys is some from Ukraine. Before I'm going to start with this one here. I'm going to save the Schwarzenegger one till last, because I think that one's a really good one. So to those adhering to the embolic, just imagine Putin doing X and Y to Ukraine, ranting. This is in October, by the way. Last year, Putin has already done damage to any war crimes. This is the maternity hospital in Mariupol, wiped out by a Russian bomber on March the 9th, 2022. So this is how long back it is. But you know, this is within Ukraine, guys. The continuous conflict that's happening there. We know that they've targeted. They try to target civilians as well with some of their antics as well. We also know that they're trying to hit energy outputs as well. But more devastation in Ukraine. This was a very powerful. I've listened to a few interviews today, but this piece here was really, really good. This is on September the 11th, 2023. Timothy Snyder was asked why Russia chose a genocidal war against Ukraine and provides this very sharp answer. So let's have a listen.
А ваша думка, чому взагалі Росія обрала для себе такий шлях? Ну, очевидно, вони теж розуміють, що вони вчиняють саме геноцид.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a wonderful question, and it's a bit of a mystery to all of us, isn't it? I mean, I think the war, I'll give you a logic. you know, and then we can all think about it, ask the Russians in 10 years. But the war is based on the principle that you don't exist, right? The principle of the war is, you know, Ukraińców немає, Ukrainy немає, Ukraińskiej kultury немає. This is the principle, right? That there's not really Ukraine. There's only Russia, great Russian history, great Russian culture. Now, and so the idea was to come in and kill or deport people like you, people like everybody here, and then the happy Ukrainian peasant masses would just go along and accept they were Russian. That was the idea. What happens though when it turns out that's not true, right? So the Russian idea is that everybody wants to be Russian. No. So that turns out not to be true. Then how do you feel? Well, you feel, I need to kill more and more people, right? At first you think it's just an elite that's Ukrainian, then you realize more people are Ukrainian, then you realize there's an entire Ukrainian nation. And so the logic is, okay, I have to kill more and more people in order to get to those Ukrainians who want to be Russians. And you do that long enough and you realize there aren't very many Ukrainians like that, and suddenly you find yourself in this completely genocidal position, which is where they are. When they started, I mean, they said quite openly, this is a colonial mission. We're gonna kill the elites. We're gonna put people in camps, and then the rest of the country will go along. That's already genocidal, but when it turns out that there are more people that you have to kill, then you kill more people. And that's what they say this openly on television. They started out by saying thousands or tens of thousands, and now they say, well, it turns out there are more Ukrainians, so we have to kill millions. So I think that's the dynamic.
It's a very fascinating way of putting it. A very, very interesting way of putting this. That to create, but I think what's also really important to understand as well, to remind ourselves of when it all. Is that when Russia invaded originally, they were expecting the soldiers had very mixed messaging when they went in, and we'll hear that from the speech from Schwarzenegger in a bit. On have Israel and Ukraine, these stances opposite each other, and I've in the thinking of this, and there I berries in the UK. Because a resistance fighter is grown by the violence you subject unto them, says Chris Fisher. Yeah, you grow from a racism pedestal whom hate you. Yeah, this idea they expected, like they don't consider Ukraine to be Ukraine. They consider it to be part of Russia. We've come to bring you back into the fold, sort of thing. This was kind of the perception, but they didn't accept that, and they thought, how then? And the response is not, oh, well, we're sorry about this. It's not the kindness and compassion. It's, what? How dare you not think you're Russian? Like, why would you not think you are Russian? You are Russian. Like, this is the mindset that seems to may have been embedded in some of them. I wouldn't say this. I don't know. When we're hearing a bit in the video, but I don't think this is the mindset of all Russian soldiers who were thinking that. I don't think they were all thinking that, if I'm honest. I'm not going to play that. Yeah, I'm not going to play that one, but I will play this one for you. Don't worry. There's nothing. Can we? So this here, you're going to see. You should be able to see that, should you? Hold on. Let me do that one for you. So you should be able. Don't worry. You're not going to see any. You shouldn't. They do. There is one body, but they pixelate it, so don't worry. But they're going to show just the damage of like some of the different areas, and you guys are known here. Those who have been following the short videos, those whenever I've been covering Ukraine, you'll recognize some of the regions and that where Russia have been hitting certain parts of Ukraine here. That's the Sumy region there. That was on the 27th of July. Zamaria region, that's the 25th. Kiev, obviously, got had some bomb strikes using a drone there to report it. Oslo region there, fire breaking out. It's 22nd to the 25th there. More damage there. Zaporizhia region, I've covered that a few times on the short videos you guys have heard. There's some of the damage and destruction that's been caused by there. Kherson region. The Kherson region, reminder, Kherson is on the other side of the Dnipro River. The river is what keeps Russia at bay on that side, and obviously they fire from from the other side of the river Russia into the Kherson region. It's the Donetsk region. The Donetsk region obviously is where Russia have been slowly ebbing in most of the territory. That is where I would say the majority of the fighting is taking place, because the objective of the Russian army, Russian forces, they want Putin wants the whole of Donetsk region by the end of this year. That's what he wants objective wise. I should also point out that another 2 villages have fallen to Russian hands over the past few days as well. It was reported as well. Kharkiv region, once again, more destruction in the regions. Just firemen just trying to clear up after it, obviously. In the Kharkiv region, the Dymo region as well, cars and buildings and whatnot. Most of these, week 126 of Russia's full-scale invasion, Ukraine needs more air defensive system. So if there is ever more of a reason why Ukraine needs its air defense systems, this is why. Very good clip there. That's from World War III. Don't worry, there's no actual war. There's no actually firing or gunfire taking place in that clip, guys. If you're worried, I can tell you. I don't know what's happened here. I'm going to turn off the sound on this one. But these Russian I don't know how strong this is. So I take this clip with a pinch of salt. But these Russian soldiers, they appear to be Russian soldiers. And they appear to have abandoned one of their own there. Apparently. Again, I don't know if how true this is. I don't even know if this is in Russia. I don't know if this is in the war. But I would just take this slightly with a pinch of salt. There. So I'm not 100% sure about that one. President Zelensky, yesterday, speaking on Twitter. Every now and then he'll do some. I'm not going to play the full clip because it's unnecessary, because he does a lot of thanking later. But I'm just going to play a little bit of it to give you what he's had to say for recent events. Today he's had a meeting with the Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal regarding the recovery efforts, and the government's preparing additional measures to ensure that more Ukrainian children can attend school in person this autumn rather than online. So just a couple of things that are happening within the country itself.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Кілька речей за цей день. Провів сьогодні нараду з главою уряду Денисом Шмигалем щодо відновлення, зокрема, за результатами поїздки у Харків, Полтавську область, на Волинь, Рівне, проведених там нарад. Це стосується і добудови об'єктів, і ключових пріоритетів відновлення, і також людей, які здатні забезпечувати повну реалізацію державних завдань. На урядовому рівні готуються кадрові рішення, також додаткові рішення, щоб вже цієї осені більше українських дітей змогли навчатись в школах не онлайн, а нормально, щоб було нормальне шкільне життя. Настільки, наскільки це зараз в час війни можливо. Друге, наші відносини з партнерами. Готуємо угоди, готуємо домовленості, які будуть у цьому серпні. Це і безпекові угоди. І завтра почнуться перемовини з ще однією європейською країною. Також вже ми готуємо візити лідерів в Україну. І відповідно зміст наших перемовин та довгострокову філософію наших домовленостей. Надзвичайно важливо, щоб для нашої держави була забезпечена стійкість на роки, і це буде гарантією більших наших можливостей зараз, в цьому році, з огляду на наявні виклики та загрози. Звичайно, ключове завдання – забезпечити і сили оборони, і державний бюджет, і соціальну стійкість України. Я вдячний усім в світі, хто нам допомагає. Звичайно, вдячність нашим воїнам, всім солдатам, сержантам, офіцерам на передовій, які...
And he pretty much goes on to pretty much thanked loads and loads of people after soldiers and generals and whatnot. But yeah, it's just outlining some of the things that he's just outlining in that first minute or two there. He's just outlining some of the things that that Zelensky's obviously got preparing. It's good to hear there that obviously they're going to try and get more in-person schools for this Ukrainian children in the country, given that they are in war times, which I think is really important. Especially, we talk about how important education is in the UK, in anywhere in general, and I think that's really good. So I really hope that they're able to get that sorted rather than obviously online there, and obviously Zelensky obviously trying to push for more aid and whatever they need for in Ukraine. I'm not going to play the sound because it's quite brutal. The sound, don't worry, you're not going to see anything horrible. But this here is just a couple of soldiers. Obviously, they are literally on the front line. The gunfire is literally dropping on them. They are actually literally on the front lines. You can tell it by the sound that there's being played of these soldiers literally being there on the front line. Understandably so. It's very difficult for them because they're literally fighting for their country, and they're making the ultimate sacrifice, which is obviously incredibly difficult for them. Obviously, soldier there during the much more colder time, shall we say, for them. It's good to see some smiles because it's very hard. Sometimes they need a bit of positivity, especially in times of war. Just sitting waiting on for anything happening. There's literally gunfire taking place as they're laying there, as that was being recorded as well, because you could hear the gunfire. But as I said, I'm not going to play the audio for that. Ukrainian female soldiers. It's not just men that are in this war in Ukraine, but women as well that are involved. There's lots of these clips of them. I've not seen them literally on the front line, women soldiers, but they are. But I could be wrong. I've not actually seen them. I'll have to look a little bit deeper to see, but it just shows I think this is really important to see the diversity. And what I mean is, we always see men in the front lines, always the men following. But I think that I just wanted to show some of the soldiers. But that's about the closest I can get to footage actually on the front line. It's very hard to actually find footage, if I'm honest, you guys. This is incredibly worrying as this here. This is from the Twitter account Unite Media 24. Russia is militarizing Ukrainian children. They openly plan to send them to war against Ukraine. Russian youth children are taught to occupy even more land, and it's a calculated strategy. Children. Look how young they are. Look how young that girl is. You know, it's absolutely insane. Look at this. Just look at this girl. Just absolutely, and And actually, and I'm pretty sure I even mentioned this in the past, guys. Like that they were going to take those Ukrainian children, the thousands, the hundreds of, well, I don't know if it's about 100,000, but more than 10 of thousands of Ukrainian children were taken by Russia, and now they're being weaponized, and they are being weaponized against Ukraine. So before I end this, I'm just going to have a quick look and see what you guys are saying in the chat before we end with the last clip there. Just like China is doing, yeah, but it's absolutely horrible. That is Putin, and what he means, I don't. They've done it before. Bojo Ukraine could have had a deal with, and O'Reilly lost Crimea de facto, but instead where we are. We don't know that. If you're talking about whether or not Boris Johnson could have secured a ceasefire deal, we honestly don't know that. We don't know that for 100% sure. It's entirely possible, but we don't know that. What were you guys saying? Ukraine got played by NATO. They need to preserve themselves or be done there. You're not trying to imply that what's happening. Well, look, you're entitled to your opinion, Chris. But you know, like it's Ukraine. Yeah, it's what's happening to Ukraine is abhorrent. I know it's not the same as Gaza. I understand that, but you can't throw this all on NATO. You can't throw what's happening in Ukraine on NATO. If the enemy comes off best, is said you're better off dead. The Remembrance by Jake Thackeray cracking anti-war songs. An actor sitting in a historic palace. I don't know where he's sitting. Yeah, he might be sitting in a Ukrainian palace. We also have to remember that that palace may have been in that that palace may have been when it had well, obviously there is still corruption in Ukraine, but not as much. I would say probably may have been a lot of it may have been dealt with since then, but I understand. I knew when I saw that background, Chris. I totally get that point there about the palace looking lavish and him sitting in there. That doesn't look very ideal either. Like if he was sitting in a rough area or something, it would make more sense. But I can understand the frustration of that. Ukraine needs a massive pole and a huge white flag. Have they done it months ago? They would have had more land and more folks alive. I thought I was talking about Israel still. Now I was listening to Ukraine. Yeah, we switched to Ukraine, Genie Bottom. In the USSR, people got beaten up for speaking Ukrainian openly. Yeah, that is true. I heard about that. And he just kept speaking it. I am part German, and I can tell you in Germany, it did in the past. They learned and while they do not agree on the pro-US peace and are half Prussian, and they let our homeland burn. It's fine, Chris. You don't need to apologise. Yeah. This is very intense stuff we're talking about here. You know, we're talking about people's lives are being destroyed, people's homes are being destroyed, not just in Ukraine, but what's happening in Gaza. It's completely understandable to feel upset, feel angry, and feel these emotions. So you're perfectly entitled to feel like that. It's completely understandable, Chris. Honestly, it really is. When Crimea happened, that is when this evil would have been nipped in the bud, but we should have had sanctions. Yeah, just try. I understand tensions are high and everyone has different opinions, but just try to be as civil as you can when talking about these things. I know it's it could be difficult about it, but you're absolutely entitled to be frustrated about these things, guys. So I'm gonna end this, guys, with a very passionate. Some of you guys may have heard this before. Let me make sure I've got it's an old one from Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I hope you guys like this from him. It's 9 minutes long, so don't worry, we won't miss Max's live stream. But he makes an appeal to the people of Russia. But I still think these words ring to today, and I hope that I hope people in Russia do hear this hear this.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm sending this message through various different channels to reach my dear Russian friends and the Russian soldiers serving in Ukraine. I'm speaking to you today because there are things that are going on in the world that are being kept from you, terrible things that you should know about. But before I talk about the harsh realities, let me just tell you about the Russian who became my hero. In 1961, when I was 14 years old, a very good friend of mine invited me to come to Vienna and to watch the World Weightlifting Championships. I was in the audience when Yuri Petrovich Vlasov won the World Championship title, becoming the first human being to lift 200 kilograms over his head. And somehow a friend of mine got me backstage. All of a sudden, there I was, a 14-year-old boy, standing in front of the strongest man in the world. I couldn't believe it. He reached out to shake my hand. I mean, I still had a boy's hand. He had this powerful man's hand that swallowed mine. But he was kind, and he smiled at me. I will never forget that day. Never. I went home and I put his photo above my bed to inspire me when I started lifting weights. My father told me to take down that picture and to find a German or an Austrian hero. He got really angry, and we argued back and forth. He didn't like Russians because of his experience in the Second World War. You see, he was injured at Leningrad, where the Nazi army that he was part of did vicious harm to the great city and to its brave people. But I did not take the photograph down, no, because it didn't matter to me what flag Yuri Vlasov carried. My connections to Russia didn't stop there, by the way. Oh, it actually deepened when I traveled there with bodybuilding and for my movies and met all my Russian fans. And on one of those trips, I remember, I met Yuri Vlasov once again. It was in Moscow during the filming of Red Heat, which was the first American movie allowed to film in Red Square. Now, he and I spent the whole day together. He was so thoughtful, so kind, and so smart, and, of course, very giving. He gave me this beautiful blue coffee cup. And ever since then, I've been drinking my coffee out of every morning. Now, the reason why I'm telling you all of those things is that ever since I was 14 years old, I've had nothing but affections and respect for the people of Russia. The strength and the heart of the Russian people have always inspired me. And that is why I hope that you will let me tell you the truth about the war in Ukraine and what is happening there. No one likes to hear something critical of the government, I understand that. But as a longtime friend of the Russian people, I hope that you will hear what I have to say. And may I remind you that I speak with the same heartfelt concern as I spoke to the American people when there was an attempted insurrection on January 6th last year, when a wild crowd was storming the US Capitol, trying to overthrow our government. You see, there are moments like this that are so wrong, and then we have to speak up. And it's exactly the same with your government. I know that your government has told you that this is a war to denazify Ukraine. Denazify Ukraine? This is not true. Ukraine is a country with a Jewish president, I might add, whose father's 3 brothers were all murdered by the Nazis. You see, Ukraine did not start this war. Neither did nationalists or Nazis. Those in power in the Kremlin started this war. This is not the Russian people's war. No. As a matter of fact, let me tell you, what you should know is that 141 nations at the UN voted that Russia was the aggressor and called for it to remove its troops immediately. Only 4 countries in the entire world voted with Russia. That is a fact. See, the world has turned against Russia because of its actions in Ukraine. Whole city blocks have been flattened by Russian artillery and bombs, including a children's hospital and a maternity hospital. 3 million Ukrainian refugees, mainly women, children, and elderly, fled their country, and many more are trying to seek to get out. It is a humanitarian crisis. Because of its brutality, Russia is now isolated from the society of nations. You're also not being told the truth about the consequences of this war on Russia itself. I regret to tell you that thousands of Russian soldiers that have been killed. They have been caught between Ukrainians fighting for their homeland and the Russian leadership fighting for conquest. Massive amounts of Russian equipment have been destroyed or abandoned. The destruction that Russian bombs are raining down upon innocent civilians has so outraged the world that the strongest global economic sanctions ever taken have been imposed on your country. Those who don't deserve it on both sides of the war will suffer. The Russian government has lied not only to the citizens, but to its soldiers. Some of the soldiers were told they were going to fight Nazis. Some were told that the Ukrainian people would greet them like heroes, and some were told that they were simply going on exercise. They didn't even know that they were going into war. And some were told that they were there to protect ethnic Russians in Ukraine. None of this is true. The fact is that Russian soldiers have faced fierce resistance from the Ukrainians who want to protect their families and their country. When I see babies being pulled out of ruins, I think that I'm watching a documentary about the horrors of the Second World War, not the news of the day. Now let me tell you, when my father arrived in Leningrad, he was all pumped up on the lies of his government. And when he left Leningrad, he was broken, physically and mentally. He lived the rest of his life in pain. Pain from a broken back, pain from the shrapnel that always reminded him of these terrible years, and pain from the guilt that he felt. To the Russian soldiers listening to this broadcast, you already know much of the truth that I've been speaking. You have seen it with your own eyes. I don't want you to be broken like my father. This is not the war to defend Russia that your grandfathers or your great-grandfathers fought. This is an illegal war. Your lives, your limbs, your futures are being sacrificed for a senseless war condemned by the entire world. Now, to those in power in the Kremlin, let me just ask you, why would you sacrifice those young men for your own ambitions? To the soldiers who are listening to this, remember that 11 million Russians have family connections to Ukraine. So every bullet you shoot a brother or a sister. Every bomb or every shell that falls is falling not on an enemy, but on a school, or a hospital, or a home. I know that the Russian people are not aware of such things are happening. So I urge the Russian people and the Russian soldiers in Ukraine to understand the propaganda and the disinformation that you're being told. I ask you to help me spread the truth. Let your fellow Russians know the human catastrophe that is happening in Ukraine. And to President Putin, I say, you started this war. You're leading this war. You can stop this war. Now, let me close with a message to all of the Russians who have been protesting on the streets against the invasion of Ukraine. The world has seen your bravery. We know that you have suffered the consequences of your courage. You have been arrested, you have been jailed, and you have been beaten. You are my new heroes. You have the strength of Yuri Petrovich Vlasov. You have the true heart of Russia. My dear Russian friends, may God bless you all.
Very powerful speech from Arnie there. Unfortunately, I just don't think, you know, while this was a while ago, you don't get much protesting, or at least we don't hear much protesting, unfortunately, within it, to be fair, you guys. But very powerful speech from Arnold. But obviously it's very it's an Americanized speech, I know. But I thought I'd share it in full with you guys, and I really hope that That's been viewed 4 million times, by the way. I really hope it did help the people of Russia, because this war that's happening in Ukraine is the fault of Vladimir Putin. It is the fault of him and his government. It is not the people of Russia. I will never attack say that this is the Russian soldiers' fault. There are some Russian soldiers who go too far, absolutely, and we know the report, and we've heard the reports, obviously. But a lot of them are being sent into this against their own will. We've heard about the conscriptions that have been enforced upon many Russian people, how they are locking up the borders and stopping Russian people from fleeing the countries to other nations as well. Many innocent Russian people are suffering as a result of what's been happening, and they continue to suffer to this day. And even when they try to stand up, they are being pushed down. And I generally hope that whenever Putin, whether it's something happens to him, or he becomes sick, or whatever that pushes him out of power, I hope that whatever it fills that void understands the needs of Russia to put the guns down, to give back the lands that are not belonging to them, to give Ukraine and let his people decide its own future, and not by the hands of other people. It is down to the people of Ukraine to make their choice. I'm sure that while they appreciate Zelensky and everything he's done, I'm sure that after this war, I do hope that Ukraine prevails, that they will have a new president and a new direction. And if the people of Ukraine want to become part of the European Union, they should be allowed to do that. If they want to become a part of NATO, they should be allowed to do that. If that is the will of the people of Ukraine, it should be let them make that decision. Not influenced by the West, not influenced by NATO, not influenced by anyone else. It should be the people's choice to make that decision. That's how it should always be. So, obviously, we'll have to wait and see over time. I mean, obviously, there's more weapons supplies coming in from America, and hopefully peace will come. Not just there, hopefully at some point within Gaza. The sooner the better, of course, guys. So I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along. Thank you guys all for your comments. I know this was a difficult one. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to do this again, a live stream like this again. Obviously, understandably, tensions were very high. But one thing that, even though we all have disagreements about things, one thing we do all want is we want the guns to be put down. We want the bullets to stop firing, and we want people to be able to return to their homes. We want peace. It's not stupid to say that you want world peace. It's not a silly thing. It's something that people want. Nobody wants to see violence. Nobody wants to see bloodshed. Nobody wants to see people taking their lives at all. And I think that's something that, regardless of how we want it, or who started it, or who caused it, that's something we all should agree on. So, guys, I will see you on Max's live stream. Hopefully, I'm going to assume he's doing a live stream in about 10 minutes. If he's not, then obviously I will see you guys back on, well, maybe even tomorrow, guys. So, guys, just before we head out, just a reminder. So tomorrow there will be Regan's News Round. Will be tomorrow at 8 p.m. No guarantee that I will be there in the chat for you guys. It was pre-recorded on Thursday, so just as a reminder. So, but there is obviously there will obviously be plenty of stories in there as well, covering stories from the UK. On Sunday there will be the World's News Round, and that was recorded this morning for you guys as well. I think I only have one story from Gaza maybe on there. I'm not from there, but do check that out on Sunday. That will drop at 7 o'clock, so it will end before All Shorts goes live on Sunday evening, his usual time slot. So don't worry, guys, I'm not going to overlap Marcus All Shorts as well. And back on Monday with another live stream as a Snowflake Viewpoint. A reminder, guys, next Thursday, myself and Daily Blase. If you're a fan of Daily Blase, definitely come and check it out. It's going to be a really good live stream. I'm really looking forward to that one, guys. But I want to say a massive thank you to everyone coming along. Thank you, guys, for all for your comments. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you Look after yourselves as always. And have a great weekend, guys. But just before I head out, I just have to use the usual thing, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching. And I hope to catch you all very, very soon.